How do you overcome the poisons of anger and hate? By learning to embrace the power of mindful awareness and love. But why is that so hard for us to do? And how can you restore your calm in your life? Stay tuned to find out.
Life is a journey,
not a destination.
And you don't need to go it alone.
Join me for practical tips and strategies on using mindfulness techniques and creating mindset shifts that can reduce stress, improve productivity, and give you a fresh perspective on work and life.
This is a Candy Factory Mini.
Mastering the Mindful Mindset
with Jose Johnson.
Today, we're going to talk about overcoming anger, aggression, and hate. But first, let's set the stage properly by doing a little reset. Now, if you watched episode 1, you'll hopefully remember this exercise. And if you haven't watched yet, don't worry. You can still easily follow along. Just make sure you go back and watch it later, and you can catch all the details. So, either sitting or standing, put one hand just below your belly button, and the other hand in the small of your back. Imagine your abdomen is like a big balloon, and we're just going to take in a nice deep breath in, filling the belly. So, deep breath in, and let it go. And again, a nice deep breath in. And deep breath out. And we'll do one more nice, slow, deep breath in. And relaxing, let the breath go. All right, hopefully that little reset has allowed you to clear your mind and get you in the right state of mind for our time together today. In episode 22, I talked about the 2 darts and the 3 poisons. The first darts are the pains that you experience as part of life. The second darts are the pains that you inflict on yourself because of the first dart. While the first darts are the cause of our pain, the second darts are the cause of our suffering. The second darts are tipped with one of the 3 poisons, and those poisons are ignorance, attachment, and aversion. So today, we're going to take a look at the poison of aversion and how to apply the antidotes of mindful awareness and loving kindness. Aversion is the most destructive poison. Aversion is also known as anger, aggression, and hate. And while this poison affects each of us individually, this poison is also extremely infectious. So let's start with anger. Anger is not necessarily a bad thing. Like all emotions, it serves a purpose. The problem comes when we hold on to it. Anger is considered a secondary emotion. A secondary emotion is an emotional response that you have to other emotions. You typically become angry because of an event that first triggers a different emotion, and that emotion is then manifested as anger. So you can think of anger like the tip of an iceberg. The expression of anger is what breaks through the surface. The real causes are much deeper and mostly hidden from sight. Some of the most common primary emotions that are the source of anger are fear, frustration, shame, loss, and loneliness. Now, this list is by no means comprehensive, and I'm not qualified to discuss how mental health and traumatic events cause anger. What I'm talking about is the day-to-day expressions of anger, the situations where we allow our circumstances to push our hot buttons. In Buddhist teachings, anger is often compared to either an out-of-control forest fire or a rampaging elephant. Why? Because once they get going, it's hard to stop them from wreaking havoc on everything around them. Buddhism also suggests that there are 3 different ways people respond to anger. The first way is that the anger is like an inscription on a rock. It's slow to fade away. The second is that anger is like an inscription in the soil, which eventually is blown away. This describes the type of person who gets angry fairly often, but whose anger doesn't last too long. And finally, there's the inscription in the water. This is the person who, no matter what darts are thrown at them, they just don't have a place to stick. But what does science have to say about anger? Well, let's start with the physical. Research has indicated that anger, either expressed or repressed, affect the health of your heart. Anger has also been found to increase the risk of strokes. A Harvard University study found that men with high levels of anger and hostility had reduced lung capacity and increased risk of respiratory problems. Anger weakens your immune system, and we all know how important that is. And finally, anger has been linked to a shortened lifespan. Now, I don't know about you, but if I found out that I had lost years of my life because every time I was angry, that would really piss me off. But what's going on in the brain when we're angry? When we experience anger, one of the first things that happens is that the production of adrenaline and cortisol rise. Now, adrenaline is part of the body's fight or flight mechanism. It's produced as the sympathetic nervous system kicks into high gear. Cortisol is often referred to as the stress hormone, and when cortisol is unregulated, it can cause a whole host of problems. Elevated cortisol levels cause a loss of neurons in the prefrontal cortex, and that's the part of our brain that's the source of our ability to reason. And when its abilities are impaired, it makes it difficult for us to make good decisions. And this is why we often say and do some pretty stupid things when we're stressed out and angry. Elevated cortisol also kills neurons in the hippocampus and prevents the brain's ability to actually create new ones. The hippocampus plays a key role in how our memory works. And the excess cortisol not only weakens our short-term memory, it also prevents new memories from being properly formed. Now, this is one of the reasons that you might not be able to remember the things that you did or said when you're angry. High levels of cortisol also decrease serotonin and oxytocin. Serotonin is one of the feel-good chemicals in our brain. And when its levels get too low, it amplifies the amount of anger and pain that you can experience. And it's also linked to an increase in aggressive behavior. Oxytocin is the love hormone. It's the chemical of connection. Now, research has indicated that holding on to anger in the form of holding a grudge reduces the production of oxytocin in our brain. Now, this creates an increased feeling of detachment between us and the object of our anger. Now, on a related note, anger also begins to shut down the mirror neurons in our insular cortex. Our mirror neurons are key to our ability to experience empathy. So when we're angry, we begin to lose the ability to relate to the feelings of others. When anger overstays its welcome, it can fester into the stronger poison of hate. And hate is extremely powerful. Anger and hate are the dark side of the force. They are the fiery emotions that lead us to take massive actions, but that action often ends up being destructive. Now, hate can be used as motivation for improvement. Say, for example, you love eating junk food, but that love for eating empty calories has made you 50 pounds overweight. One day you look in the mirror and you no longer like what you see. You're unhappy with the way you feel. You're angry that your clothes don't fit anymore. You say that you hate being overweight. But it's not until the hate for your current condition is stronger than your love for the cause of that condition that you will be willing and able to make the change. So that's an example of using the power of hate for good. But be careful, because that power can burn you. Your hate for your weight gain, which is the end result of your attitudes and decisions, can easily become hatred for yourself. You no longer hate the weight, you begin to hate yourself. Hate that is turned inwards is a lack of self-worth. It's self-loathing. And it often leads to self-destructive tendencies. But when that hate is turned outwards, that's when things really get ugly. Hate directed at others is the cause of so much of our world's suffering. From the passive-aggressive acts of exclusion and rejection to outright acts of violence, this type of hate is bad mojo. I personally try to adhere to this basic concept. It's okay to hate a situation, it's okay to hate an idea, but it's not okay to hate people. You can hate what people say, what they represent, but try not to hate the person. So what are some of the ways that you can reduce the effects of anger and hate in your life? Well, the first tip is to take a deep breath. Actually, take several deep breaths. Now, if you wonder why I start every episode of the show with my reset exercise, it's because our breathing directly hacks into our autonomic nervous system. When we're angry, our sympathetic nervous system is in high gear. The act of mindful breathing techniques downshifts our brain out of fight or flight mode by revving up our parasympathetic nervous system. But to do this, we need to engage our awareness towards how we breathe. Remember when you were a kid and got angry, maybe one of your parents would say, take a deep breath and count to 10. Well, they actually weren't that far off. So we're going to do this very simple breathing exercise, and the technique is called 4-7-8 breathing. It's very similar to the reset that we did at the beginning of this episode. The only twist is that we're going to hold the breath for a few seconds. The reason is that we want to have all that freshly oxygenated blood help dilute the stress chemicals that are dominating our thoughts. Now, like I talked about earlier, cortisol inhibits serotonin and oxytocin. So as the concentration of cortisol decreases, our stress and anger can more easily be replaced with calm and joy. So let's try this one together. We're going to inhale deeply for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, and exhale for a count of 8. Ready? Here we go. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Now hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Another tip is to take a hike. Now, like I said earlier, when we are angry, our ability to make good decisions is altered. And our ability to reason is influenced by our perspective. You can't see things differently from where you're standing. So take a walk to change your point of view. This technique is extremely helpful when you're trying to find creative solutions to problems. And since anger tends to get us stuck in a rigid thought process, a change of scenery can also create a change of mind. It also physically removes you from the situation or the person that you're viewing as the source of your anger. Plus, if you can get outside, it can give you the added bonus of fresh air, which you now know is an important ingredient in creating calm. Next, take a long, hard look. Try to consciously shift your awareness outside of yourself for a moment. Anger is a very self-centered emotion. It's about protecting yourself, even if it means hurting others. So as hard as it might be, try to look at your actions from the outside. If your anger is directed at a situation, consider if being angry will help improve the situation, or will it simply compound your pain? If your anger is being directed at someone else, think about how you would feel if your same words, attitudes, or actions were being directed at you. Are they justified? Are you making the situation better or worse for you and for the other person? And finally, love unconditionally. When you feel love, your brain is producing oxytocin, and that is the chemical that binds us together. It helps us feel connected and increases our empathy. When you love someone, you only want the best for them. You become much more tolerant. You focus more on what you have in common and less on what divides you. Remember the words of Nelson Mandela. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. So there you have it. I hope that you enjoyed our time together and that you have some new ideas on ways to prevent your pain from turning into suffering. If you have a question or a topic you'd like me to cover in a future episode, just drop it in the comment section and I'll do my best to help you out. Make sure you subscribe and share this episode with someone that you feel could benefit from this information. And also take time to check out all of the other fantastic programming brought to you here on the Candy Factory Collective. So until next time, remember, it is what it is, but it becomes what you make it. So make it great. Mastering the Mindful Mindset is part of the Candy Factory mini-series and is a proud member of the Candy Factory Collective. You can find the show streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, and you can subscribe to the audio version anywhere you get your podcast.
Jose Johnson has traveled the world competing and teaching martial arts.
He's an entrepreneur, musician, author, and speaker.
Check out Jose's other podcast,
The Trumpet Guru's Hang,
and learn more about his book,
Mindfulness Secrets, at his website,
josejohnson.com.
Mastering the Mindful Mindset is produced by the Candy Factory Collective.
at the Candy Factory Coworking campus in Lancaster, PA.
Our music was written and recorded by Jose. Production support by Anna Tran.
administrative support by Ann Kirby, Arianna Henderson,
Krisha Martzel, Jason Mundok, and Robert Diggs.
Notes and links can be found at the show post at our website,
CandyFactoryCollective.com.
Candy Factory.
Collective.